This is Crew Tales, Life in the Circus. In the motion picture world, there are an army of dedicated professionals who work behind the scenes to make the movies and shows we watch today. I'm Brad Hodson, and I've spent over 30 years in the motion picture industry. This podcast celebrates the people who make the magic behind the scenes. Tony, welcome to the circus.
Thank you.
Describe for me what you do.
I am a mechanical or physical special effects supervisor. So when someone's going to see a TV show or a movie, what my job is to create these special effects that are practical, just as it says, which are the hail, the rain, the snow, the sleet, the wet down roads, and all of the mechanical things that relate to that. Things with hydraulics, things with pneumatics, things with fiberglass, explosions, of course, shooting people, killing people, that kind of thing, blood, that kind of stuff. And we are lucky enough, and I have been lucky enough for many years now to be able to do that job, where I get to get my hands into all of those things, sometimes on a daily basis, which is great.
Describe your journey in your career.
My journey is an odd one because, as it always is with film people, how they get to the end result is just a strange path. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was in high school. I was with a friend one day. He worked at a community television station. Someone didn't show up for work, and he said, "We're out at the Boundary Bay Airport. You want to come and help me?" And I said, "Sure, what am I doing?" And he said, "Well, I need to pull cable up and down the runway with this camera. Can you come and help me on this hot summer August day?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" Right? It's, I'm 17 years old, and why not? It'd be fun. And it was a lot of fun. And from there, I just started to ask more questions about, well, what else can you do? Well, there's camera, there's this, there's lighting, there's, set construction. And then somebody introduced me to the theater community. And so I started working at all the different theaters here in Vancouver, the Arts Club, the Playhouse, and so on, working through IATSE 118 as, a stagehand, basically. And then somebody said to me, "You're really handy. You kind of do all the jobs. You should be a special effects person." I said, "Sounds cool. What's that job?" I had no idea what that was. And then they described it to me. And I thought, okay, well, where do I learn how to get that job? Like, where do I go to school? And everybody said, "There's no school in Vancouver. I don't even know of one in the world where there is to learn how to do it. There has to be some way." And at this point in Vancouver, this is, the mid 80s, things are picking up, of course. You've got different TV series starting like MacGyver and things like that. And so I just kind of forced myself onto any movie or TV set that I showed up on. I would hunt them down, if you will, in town. And I learned really quickly not to say, "Where are the special effects people?" I would say, "Oh, I'm with the special effects department." And they go, "Oh yeah, you're right over there." And and basically lie my way onto the set. And then people go, "Why are you standing beside me?" "I want to learn how to do your job." And some people would tell me to get the F out of there. And others would go, "Great, here, grab this." And I'd be like, "What, really?" And that is literally how I got my start in special effects, is because I faked my way into it. They said, "Do you know how to tie this knot?" "Sure, I can." "Have you ever done this before?" "Yes, of course." And it was great because I had people like Dave Hinks, who did a lot of stuff for, the BC film industry and the television industry on like Beachcombers and things like that. Dave has passed away, of course, but he taught me a lot about the job. He was very kind to me at the time and was able to just give me a lot of insight into how to do the job and do the job with a lot of passion, right? He loved to do the job. And so from there, I went around town, and at the time, again, in the late 80s, there wasn't a lot of special effects companies here. They would bring people up from Los Angeles to do shows, like I say, like MacGyver and so on. And again, I just would put my resume out. I went to one special effects shop that there was at the time here, and I took my resume in, and I said, "I mailed you this resume." Mail at the time, no email or anything. "And did you get it?" And the fella across the counter looked at me and he said, "Yeah, I got your resume." And I said, "Well, great." And he looked at the one I gave him and he rolled it up and threw it in the garbage. He goes, "I'm doing to that resume like I did the previous resume you gave me. I don't care. Get out of here." And as he's talking to me, I'm looking behind him, and I looked in his shop and it was a mess. There was junk everywhere. There's a couple of guys having lunch. It just was a disaster. And I said, "You know what? I'll work in your shop for free today, as long as I get to ask questions about what all that equipment is back there. If they can show me a demo of it, even better." He looked at me and laughed and went, "Sure," thinking I'm the sucker, not him. So I learned from two very great special effects guys, Steve Davis and Roy Schultz, how a whole bunch of stuff worked in one day. They were super kind, very open to giving me answers. And so the next day, I get a phone call at like 5 a.m. Gary Paller is the special effects coordinator. That is his shop. He calls me up and says, would you like to come and work again in the shop? I said, no, I can't work for free for 2 days. I got to pay the rent. He's like, no, come in and work. We'll see what we can do. End of that day, he said to me, what are you doing for about 6 months? I said, I don't know why. He says, well, I want you to come and work on Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan, the movie. And I said, are you kidding me? Really? And he's like, yeah, no, why? Yeah. So on that show, I learned how to do a lot of things because it's just that kind of project. We're killing people every day. We're doing horrible things, that kind of stuff. And so it just springboards you into meeting other people. And then they go, well, you should go and talk to so-and-so. And that's how it starts. As you know, it's who you know, sometimes not what you know. And that's how I got my start in the business.
It's a great story. Can you share with me obviously, some of the tricks of the trade? It's not real blood you're using. You have ways of getting around things that look visually incredible, yet obviously are done safely and done in a way that makes the shot better.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start with the thing that I pride myself on is I am a stickler for safety. It is the biggest concern I have every day. I had it when I was new to the business. I learned from some really great people like Bill Orr and John Thomas that safety is the only thing you should care about every day. It's, as John Thomas said to me one day, this is just bubble gum for the brain. That's what we're making. People chew it up for 2 hours, they spit it out, and now they want another piece of gum to watch, right? And I really appreciated that. I got the point. And so when it comes to how we do things, well, we do those things by looking at what the real world needs and how we get to that end result. But like you say, with blood, of course, we're not using real blood, but what is the blood that we need for that shot? Is it somebody falling in the water? Is it somebody that's, getting it dumped on them? What vein is it? Different colors of blood, things like that. So we have tricks, as we do these things to work within the scene that we're trying to create. So, it's a lot of it is things that we can get right out of a grocery store. And that's what surprises a lot of people, when we can make blood just from using some, corn syrup, some red food dye number 5, and away we go. That was old school. Nowadays, it's very technical. It's very complicated. And for a lot of good reasons, because, a lot of the things we used to use back in the day were found to not be the most positive things for people's skin, for people to breathe in, that kind of stuff. So thankfully, we've eliminated those. And there's been companies that have created such great fog fluids, blood products, and so on, right? It's been great. But I mean, when it comes to what we do to create something that is a vision, I guess, out of a script, it's so dependent on what that script is. So it's sometimes you have to go on all your experience of what you've learned over the years to get to the end result.
Right. Well, talk me through that. Every show or movie needs some kind of special effect, whether it's just simple smoke or an explosion. When you're brought on as a supervisor, obviously you come on pretty early. And what's kind of the basic process for you to provide effects to a particular production?
Well, it all starts with me reading the script. I don't take a project on unless I've read the script and had an opportunity to talk to the directors, a couple of the lead producers, so I get a sense of what the project's going to be. And I do that because my vision is sometimes not the vision of what the people that are wanting me to be in that position is. So, it's interpretation, I guess, is the best way to put it. So I interpret the script the way I read it. I give them an idea of how we can solve some of these, asks that are in the script. And then it's a process of figuring out with my team how we get to the end result. So again, leaning back on, your experience, you go, well, we've done this particular thing, say with something with hydraulics, a deck that has to move a very large object up and down. So you go, okay, well, which ways does that object have to move? Does it have to move just up and down? Is it back and forth? Is it shaking? What is it doing? So you take all those, all those points, you put them into your experience, and you go, okay, well, we're going to need, a hydraulic motion base to create that effect. That's how we get to that end result. Or if we're crashing a car, okay, well, is there a stunt driver in that car? What does that car have to do? Does it have to roll? Does it have to flip? How many flips? Where is it happening? What time of day? How many people are on the sidewalk when this is happening? Is there anybody on the sidewalk? There's so many more questions that I go back to the directors especially and ask them. And a lot of times I'm asking questions that they don't even know the answer to because they haven't thought about it that far ahead. And I have to think of the end result, not just how to create the effect. And it's sometimes get very complicated, especially when we're doing explosions. I just did one recently on Final Destination Bloodlines that I was very fortunate that the directors and the producers all allowed me to do very practical effects, which is in my world of many years of doing this. Next year will be 40 years of me doing special effects. It's a very old school way of doing it practically. Now it is a lot of people want to lean into the visual effects world. They want to give that to them for a lot of reasons. One is safety, of course. Second is time, location, concerns. They don't want us to create an explosion there because there's a bird habitat or there's, a hospital nearby. There's all kinds of reasons why we can't do things. So, on that show, we were able to create an explosion, myself and my team, and it took about 4 months to figure out how we were going to do it and then do it safely. And it was complicated because we had a building that had to blow up and an RV that had to blow up and get knocked over and fall on a certain angle. And then we had to have the building literally 2 hours after we did the explosion. The building we just blew up had to be completely on fire, and it had to be on fire for the rest of the night for the next 9 hours. So it's creating a structure that can take an explosion, then be set on fire, an RV that has to land. There's a million questions, and you only have one try at it. That's the other thing is in that kind of large effect, there's no take two. So I have to know where everything is going to happen prior to its happening. And again, I lean on my experience for that. And I lean on the experience of my really creative team. Because again, I'm only one person and I'm only as good as my team is. And I bring to a job like that. I was so lucky that I brought so many talented people that I've worked with over the years that had so much experience and were able to take on tasks that were very large in the concern level, right? For me, I want to make sure that, for the RV flip, there's this team for the explosion and so on. So it gets complicated, no matter whether it's just smoke in a bar or a big explosion like that. There's so many things I have to think about and not worry about, but just make it so that everybody feels safe and that everybody gets to go home at the end of the night.
Right. So you work pretty closely with stunts and visual effects. So where would an example of practical effects end and visual effects begin? And how would you coordinate that with a visual effects supervisor?
Again, it all comes in prep. It's all working with the production team, the director and the producers and the writer and so on. But, it's the three of us, visual effects and stunts and myself sitting down and looking at what the ask is and then going, okay, well, how far can we take it so that it is still safe for a stunt person or the actor to be in that sequence? And when does it become something that becomes unattainable and there's a risk of someone getting seriously injured? And of course, we never go there. And it's working through a lot of testing. And that's the beauty of working with a great stunt team. Again, I lean on just something I did with Simon Burnett, the stunt coordinator on Final Destination Bloodlines. He was a big advocate like myself of test. And we would shoot all these tests on video, take them back to production, let them, digest what we've done, see if we're on the right path. And then we'd also allow visual effects at that point to go, you know what, I could take over here. What do you guys think? And we go, that's great. And then we'll pick it up after this. But again, that being such a practical show, we were able to do a lot of things in camera, and visual effects sometimes only had to take out a wire or they had to do, a bit of rub out when it came to how we did the rig off a hydraulic rig or something like that. So it's working as a team, basically, as it is with everybody on a film set. And it's knowing the parameters of what your team member, i.e. the stunt coordinator and the visual effects supervisor, can provide, and working out how you're going to make that happen in a timely fashion, and also, of course, follow the budget, right? I can't say to a visual effects supervisor on the day we're shooting it, oh yeah, we weren't able to figure that out, so that's your problem now. It unfortunately, in the day and age of filmmaking that we're in now, there is a sort of a tendency, I guess, to say that to the visual effects department. Oh, we'll let visual effects take that. And unfortunately, they don't have an unlimited budget and they don't have an unlimited time because they have a deadline as well. And I like to make sure that everybody's fully aware of what the ask is before we get to set, and that everybody can, do their end of the bargain, right?
So I guess creatively, an effect can be in the script, quite in one sentence, for example, and they come to you to say, well, what could we do here that would make it look stunning? Because it's not really written out. So you're showing your creative side by saying, well, we could do this, and this is how I would do it.
Absolutely. There are many jobs that I've done where it is literally just that. It's one line. Guy walks in the bar and there's a gunfight, and you're like, okay, and it's like I said earlier, where is this happening? How many people are in the room? What is it that we're trying to create here? Is this a present day thing? Is this a, something that's, is it 1930s gunfight? Is it, futuristic? All these things matter in how I get to where I've got to go with that. And then it's, making sure that you can create the end result, right? For what those people are asking on that particular line. But it's the creative asking that you have to go to. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll come up with a lot of ideas, myself and my team, and they don't all stick. They don't all make it to the end result. But a lot of times we trigger other ideas. And a lot of times that's directors going, I really like that idea of, that guy falling out that window. That's really, we never even thought about doing that. But I don't like where he lands. I don't, is there another better idea? And then the stunt coordinator goes, hey, well, why doesn't he land on the roof of that van? And we'll crush the roof. And then he gets up and he does this. And all of a sudden it turns into a scene where it's, was a guy walks in and starts a gunfight, and then all this other stuff happens. And a lot of times producers look at me and roll their eyes going, we can't afford any of that. It's just a guy walks in and does a gunfight. Like, you got to stay to that. Okay, great. We'll stay to that. Like, I'm going to give you all my good ideas. And if they don't all, hit it to the end where we actually film it, that's okay. Because that's my job. My job is to provide ideas, not that in the end we do them all.
Right. And Tony, you have a special effects shop as well.
I do. Yeah. I have, it's located in Burnaby. It's 6,000 square feet inside, and we have 3,000 square feet outside. Both matter in my world because inside, we have our full machine shop, our full fabrication. It's where, we, as a lot of people say, well, this is where the magic happens. And I guess that's the case. But, with the square footage outside, it gives us a lot of opportunity to test a lot of crazy big things that we have done for many years. We've been there since, I think it's like 30 plus years now at the same location. And I have really good neighbors that are very understanding. We'll go over to them and go, yeah, you're going to hear a really loud bang. And they'll go, okay. And in the old days, they'd all come, and want to watch. And now they're so jaded that you just go, yeah, fine. Let us know when, or, we had a gag where we had to test a lot of blood, and it was like literally a river of blood to the drain. And they're like, yeah, okay, what are you guys doing over there? Or, we launched a dummy and it went a little far and landed in the parking lot across the street. And they're like, I guess that didn't work so well. I'm like, yeah, we're going to dial that back, And so, yeah, it's a space where we can literally take these ideas that people give us and also create ideas and go into that shop and start working instantly. We don't have to build that shop and bring all those toys and tools into it. It already exists. And I'm fortunate because we've been there so long. A lot of other special effects teams here in Vancouver and, across the country often lean on us, give me a call and say, hey, I know you worked on this show 22 years ago, but do you still have the blah, blah, blah gag? And I'll go, we don't have all of it still built. We've had to, cannibalize some of it. We have the majority of it if you want to take a look at it, and we'll bring the pieces together, shoot a video, and they'll go, oh my God, you just saved us 4 weeks of work. Sure. Okay. Yeah. We'd be happy to rent it to you. So that's one thing that, I've cultivated over the years is rather than throwing everything away, keeping the key pieces or keeping the whole thing and seeing the value in it. My wife doesn't see the value in a lot of these things sometimes because we have so much stuff, like so much. We have 14 shipping containers full of stuff outside. Then we have the 3,000 square feet inside. And, a lot of times to most people, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, why do we need that much of that thing over there, that hydraulic stuff or that pneumatic stuff? but I see how much time it saves us.
Right.
And, it's just, it's fortunate to have a space like that because it allows creativity to happen instantly, which is great.
Over the years, what are some of the changes you've seen in your craft in manufacturing or in the techniques?
Oh, the changes, back in the day when I started, some of the smoke machines were just horrible messes that were just trying to kill us. They would overheat. They were taken from industries like insecticide machines that we turn into smoke machines. There are so many positive things that have happened in the technology. It's unbelievable. I mean, snow. We would do snow in the old days. We would take potato flakes, starch type flakes, that kind of stuff. And now there are half a dozen different ways to make the same falling snow. Sure, you can still go with potato flakes, but there are rice flakes. There are foam machines that, by Antari that are created that we rent that have amazing falling snow technique where when that snow lands on someone's face in a scene that could be shot inside a studio, that product will melt like real snow. They can let it land in their hand and it just disappears. Or they walk into a room and rather than like It's a Wonderful Life where they do that whole sequence by the tree and everybody still has a lot of snow on their shoulders for a long time, this stuff would melt right off. You'd see them come in, it would melt. So, there's just numerous things that have made it easier to do my job and a lot safer to do my job because we take a lot of technology that is in the real world. For instance, we have a firing system that we use for bullet hits that the gentleman that makes it from Holotron, that gentleman used to work at NASA. He took his knowledge from NASA, brought it into the entertainment industry, and then many years ago when he was just starting his company, effects people like myself reached out to him and he was doing things for fireworks and things like that. And we said, well, here's the issue. We have to put a bullet hit on a person, but we need to have that so we can fire it remotely. Because in the old days, we would have a wire run down their leg. We call it a tearaway. Some person would get shot in the chest and then they'd either fall or they'd run away or whatever. And we would literally yank it away from their ankle because it was just barely holding on. Well, sometimes when we're yanking that wire, those bare wires hit the guy in the leg and you could see him give that kind of twitch like, I guess he felt that, things like that. Well, he started building these remote firing systems for us and they got smaller, smaller and smaller to the point where they're like smaller than a gum package. They're so tiny. And it just makes my job easier and safer because I can put a stunt guy on a horse. I can have him ride down, get shot, fall off. And if the pack is damaged, it's okay because he's made them basically throwaways. They're $50 each. That technology back, 20 years ago would have been thousands of dollars to have that kind of stuff. So, everything that is built by what I would say real world companies is complete bonus because they've taken a problem and solved it. We still, within my department, build so much stuff that only benefits us. We have smoke machines that, yes, we build them custom for what we do because nobody builds that stuff. It just doesn't exist. We have fans that we've built, very specific. We use parts from the real world, but we, have very specific needs for them. So we've tailored those builds for that.
Do you have a particular effect that you've done in your career that maybe stands out to you as like, wow, that's pretty impressive. One of my favorites.
I have two stories for you. I'll give you a funny one and then I'll give you a technical one. When I worked on my very first feature film, Friday the 13th, Part 8, one of my jobs was we were downtown on East Hastings Street and Jason is on the roof. We're 5 stories up on a building and we're in Blood Alley area. And basically Jason punches this guy's head so hard, it rips it off his shoulders. The head flies off the roof, hits the lid of the dumpster, and the dumpster lid has to close. And that's the shot. It's a slasher movie, right? But my job was, okay, when the head comes down and hits the lid, you pull the wire, shut the lid, and then when the yell cut, you grab the head out of the dumpster, you run around the block, run up 5 flights of stairs, and bring the head back for the next take. I'm like, okay, sounds great. Well, I do it a couple times. The third time wasn't so lucky for me because I didn't think anything about it, but you've got a human head that I'm holding by the hair. All the entrails and guts are hanging out of the neck. The face looks so real. I rip around the corner and all I hear behind me is stop. police, Vancouver police. And I go, and I just freeze. And the PA beside me, he freezes. And now there's 3 cops there. And they're like, get on the ground. I go, it's not a real, and I'm trying to explain to him what I'm doing, and he's not having it. Understandably, because it's 3:00 in the morning, right? So here I am carrying this human head. And so after a bit of discussion and getting the right people to come downstairs and describe what was going on, police officer's like, just put it in a bag next time, man. Just carry it around with a bag. And I'm like, gotcha. Noted. So there's a funny story. One show that I worked on that I had the pleasure of working on was the movie Elf, the Christmas movie, right? And we had to do snow out by Riverview Hospital, when it got shut down. But out there is a garden, if you will, where all the trees around the hospital, it's botanical. You can't go on the grass. They're all very, very nurtured by botanists, and it's a big deal. And you can't take machinery out there, anything that would crush the roots, anything like that. But I had to recreate that snow effect. We were using shaved ice from the fish plant, and we had no way of getting the snow out all over the grass. And I was like, how are we going to do this? We could do it with wheelbarrows. We've done that a million times. That's going to take forever. We had to make it look like Central Park because we had shot some of the exteriors in New York. And one day I'm racking my brain trying to figure this out. I'm driving by a site where there's a landscape company working on putting bark mulch down. And there's this very large truck with this huge hose sticking out the back of it. And I'm watching this guy basically moving all this bark mulch from that truck 300 feet away from it, very casually just blowing it on the ground like crazy. I pulled over and I said to the guy, hey, could you put shaved ice in there? And he goes, why would I do that? And I explained. And then I called the owner of the company and I said, can we do a test in my effects shop? And he said, sure. So I had the truck come out to our shop, Pacific West Special Effects in Burnaby. I had a couple of loads of shaved ice in the back of the truck, and we were able to snow outside the shop in like 2 minutes. What would normally take us an hour. So we take this out, long story short, we use it out at the site. Everybody loves it. It looks great. It pulverizes the shaved ice, so it doesn't look like shaved ice. And now film crews here in Vancouver and all over Canada use the same idea to do snow in places that they can't, move it very easily, right? And for me, that's, those things are the things that you are observant about. Like as you're driving around or you're doing something, you're watching people in the real world do something, you can take what you've just seen, and then incorporate it into the film world. And that was a fun one. I mean, there's so many movies and TV shows I've worked on where we've, as a team, come up with crazy ideas that I go, that's really, really smart. And it's a lot of things that get incorporated into the norm of the Vancouver film industry and also the film industry in general, and that is a very proud thing as a community of film technicians. We've created a lot of stuff that people use all over the world, which is awesome.
Do you have any advice for people coming up in the industry?
Getting in the special effects department is something that people always want to do. And the thing is, I often get phone calls or people come by the effects shop and they
want to clean it.
Yeah, I wish. They will say things like, I really want to get into special effects and blow stuff up. And I go, you're the wrong person for this job. The minute someone says that, I'm not interested in talking to them as much as I would be normally. I had a call just the other day from a young fella out of Calgary. I'm really interested in getting into special effects. And I said to him, well, I asked him about his background and I asked him, what have you done in the real world? Because he's young, right? So he hasn't done much. So he's going to tell me that he's worked at McDonald's and that he's probably worked at his uncle's garage or on the farm or something like that, which are all valuable things. But what I would say, and I said to him was, learn more of what we do in special effects by going to someplace, a technical school. And what I always say to people is, learn how to weld. You don't have to be the best welder, but get a welding ticket, because it is the one thing that we do on almost a daily basis is weld something back together. Pick something, whether it's soldering it together, whether it's, like TIG welding, stick welding, and so on. So if you have that as a base, that gets your foot in the door, because then I can say, well, he or she is a ticketed welder, and this is why I need to hire them. Then they get immersed into all the other crazy that we create. So they may not know anything about hydraulics. They may not know anything about pneumatics or any of those things, but then they get to start to ask questions. I just, had a job last year that we had a young woman on our crew. She's worked with me doing, different jobs on different shows. Very eager to learn other things within the department because she goes, I don't want to just be a smoke blower. I don't want to be smoke blower number 9 on the left. I want to know how to do that job. And so I said to her, Amy, just go over and ask them at lunch if they will tell you about what they do, or maybe they can find an hour in the day or a half an hour how to do their job. They'll show you. And then you can either meet them early or after work, and they can maybe actually teach you how to do it. And she was so positive and so energetic to learn how to do these jobs. My team was blown away. They were like, Amy can come and learn anything she wants because she showed drive. And I guess that's what I'm getting at. Show an initiative and a drive. Don't just be the person that's there for the paycheck. Because unfortunately, in film, we get paid pretty well. And a lot of people just see that dollar sign. They don't see what I miss is the passion. Like I have a passion for what I do. I love going to work every day to try different things, to learn different things. So, if you're just there just to collect a paycheck, then I don't want you on my team. And I don't know if there's a lot of other people that want you, but it's taking the time to learn and study other things. You may not be interested in pneumatics, but you know what? Nowadays you can get on YouTube, you can get online to anywhere and learn so many things, where I used to have to get a book about, like, I didn't know anything about hydraulics. So I bought these massive thick binders from BCIT and I learned about hydraulics. Now you can, of course, just do it on the computer. It's great. I guess what I'm saying is don't just focus on one thing. Try to learn all of it. So be the fabricator when you come in, but then learn about machining. And then, if we're doing a bullet hit or something, ask the questions. I'll say, how do I learn how to do that? What are the basics? Oh, I didn't know anything about, anything with wood, and then I get one of my team to teach them about, all the different things we can do with wood or fiberglass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because we touch on so many things. I often say to people, you don't have to be a master at all these things, because if you tried to be, there was a study done by IATSE 891 about 10 years ago, and they took all of our job titles and all the different things that we do within our department. They went to UBC and they said, if we had to teach someone how to be just a good, not the best at all these things, how many years would they have to be at UBC? And they said 131 years, because you can't learn how to do all these things in a short amount of time. It's just not possible. But effects touches on all of those things. And like I say, it's drive, the want to learn, and the ability to keep your mouth shut sometimes. Just learn. You don't have to tell me what I'm not telling you is right, I guess. That's the kind of the biggest problem I have.
That's good advice. Work ethic. Work ethic always goes a long way in this business.
Yeah.
So Tony, what's next for you?
Next for me, you know what? I just finished up a project that I can't speak about that is still shooting. That is just a great TV series that's coming back, and it's going to be something that everybody's going to love. It's a very family-oriented show. We were able to do some really fun things on that. I still have a team working on it. I'm looking for projects now that I have a passion to want to do. I guess what I'm saying is I'm very picky and choosy on what I want to do next. I've done about 140, supervisor coordinator jobs over my career so far. And I work on things that interest me, that have a story that is a story that tells me something. And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I like to be challenged, I guess. And when I read a script that doesn't have a lot of challenges for myself and my team, it's good for someone else, someone younger to cut their teeth on and be a coordinator or a supervisor on. But I want to be, I want to have, challenges, something that makes me get out of bed. Right. And also challenges myself and my team to think, and that's what I love the most is problem solving. So
brilliant. Tony, thank you for being on the Circus.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Well, that about wraps it up for another episode of Crew Tales, Life in the Circus. I'd like to thank our producers Dustin Schwinnard and Dustin Girton, as well as our technical producer Rob Hunt. I'm Brad Hodson. Thank you for joining us.